Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video, and as we know, we have a plethora of projects spread across film and TV coming our way in this new DC Universe reboot under the creative guidance of James Gunn. Of course, that's starting with Superman in the middle of July, which is under 2 months away from now, so we're getting closer and closer, obviously, by the day to that. And with the character that James Gunn has said is in the plans, but nothing really announced publicly as of yet, that of course being the Flash, unclear on whether that is Barry Allen or Wally West, but just the Flash mantle as a whole, that is in the plans. But when you have your heroes like a Superman or a Flash, you have your villains, and the villain side is what intrigues me the most when it comes to this new DC Universe reboot, as I feel in the DCEU previously, the heroes were handled pretty well consistently, like not perfect, but pretty well consistently. It was maybe on the villain side where they could be forgettable or maybe transformed a lot from what you would want from them from the comics to maybe fit whatever they're going with in that story, or maybe even the particular hero, or just what villain specifically should have been chosen in a specific hero's film. So if you look at the Flash movie, for example, there was no Reverse Flash there. A lot of people feel that should have been the case. And when it comes to the Flash and his villains, regardless of whether it's Barry or Wally, Reverse Flash is who many jump to, and that could easily be who we see first in this new DC universe going up against the Flash, whenever that might be. But who else could be there, whether that be first up instead of Reverse Flash or just to follow on afterwards? Well, one for me that would be pretty interesting to see is that of Savitar. Now, of course, we had Savitar in the Arrowverse in the Flash season 3, but that was a very much alternate take on the character of Savitar from the comics, where it used the whole, wanting to be the fastest speedster angle, but with a twist in the context of the Arrowverse. But what about within the DC universe itself that James Gunn is building? What could the character of Savitar be like in that universe? Well, let's have a talk about it. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on everything we go over here. Would you want to see Savitar show up in the DCU and face off against the Flash? Do you think it should just be a straight up rip from the comics thing, even with his weird look and everything? Or do you think it should be similar to the Arrowverse in regards to doing an alternate take, but also different from what the Arrowverse did, if that makes sense? So like no big metal suit, for example, and it not being a future version or like a time remnant, Barry Allen. Like, you want to change things up there, but maybe don't want to be overly accurate to the comics because it seems a bit weird. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. And of course, if you are, enjoying the video or go on to enjoy the rest of the video, drop a like. It takes 2 seconds. Now, obviously, with James Gunn, I don't really know how much of a Flash fan he is. We know he's a big Superman fan, a big Batman fan, like the two main pillars of DC, and then also some very obscure stuff. But with the Flash, who is probably third or fourth, so for some people fifth, down when it comes to DC heroes in regards to the tier, if you want to rank them or anything like that, I don't really know what his thoughts are on the Flash and how much he likes it, and does he prefer Barry, does he prefer Wally, does he prefer goddamn Jay Garrick? We don't know specifically what his thoughts on the character are, and if they do a Flash movie, I highly doubt James Gunn's going to be the one either writing it or directing it. I think he's going to be handing it to someone else whenever that might be. So of course, even though Savitar is in that era where Gunn read a lot of comics and he seems to be adapting a lot of stuff, that being the late 80s to 90s, period, I don't necessarily know if Savitar's at the tip of his tongue. But with the comics, and if we go to Savitar's origin and what he does in the comics and how it could be translated over to the DCU, Savitar actually doesn't have a name. Of course, he has the name of Savitar, that's what we call him, but he gave that to himself. It isn't like the Flash where there is Barry Allen or Wally West, or with Batman there's Bruce Wayne. He is unknown. He actually doesn't have a name. But we know he was a test pilot during the Cold War, and he tested this supersonic jet, but during this test, the jet was struck by lightning and it did crash land. Now, upon surviving this crash, Savitar learned he could travel at super speeds, allowing him to take down the various enemies he had just crash landed amongst. Now, it was following this that he became, obsessed, might be very obsessed, we'll say very obsessed with this speed, going to very great lengths to learn more and more and master it, learning different abilities and new skills that no other speedster previously had done. Now, at this point, Barry Allen's not around. This is following Jay Garrick, so it's not like the bar was, really high, but it was still, he was learning stuff that hadn't been done previously. But this obsession from Savitar became other people's obsession as his quest for greatness attracted followers and made himself a cult leader in the process. Savitar would then come in contact with other species at the time that popped up. Firstly, Johnny Quick, but then also Max Mercury, who did play a part in Savitar's disappearance at the time. Now, Savitar would later return and face a multitude of other speeds that had arrived in his absence, and he was set on stealing their speed, which is a power he had mastered earlier on. With Wally West being the main Flash at the time, Wally would not only be able to prevent Savitar from stealing other speeds to speed due to his superior connection to the Speed Force, but also lead Savitar into the Speed Force and allow them to unite, if you want to put it, knowing that Savitar would be contained within. Now, we did see Savitar one final time after this disappearance, in the late 2000s in the Flash Rebirth, which was when Barry Allen was brought back to life. It's very quick. He escapes the Speed Force, but Barry Allen touches him and it kills Savitar. So that was the last time we saw Savitar, that iteration at the very least. And when you look at that storyline from the comics, you see, okay, you could do some interesting stuff there, but does it work for a movie, especially if maybe there's only one speedster, like there is just Barry Allen or there is just Wally West? But with that comic storyline, obviously pretty quickly summed up for the purpose of not making this video 40 minutes, how could the new DC Universe reboot adapt the character? I mean, if we just look with our eyes at the character, yeah, he does look like a DC themed like Magic Mike character. He does scream, I was created in the 90s. So I think a visual change would maybe be the first thing to check off the list, though I wouldn't mind an homage or Easter egg to the original design in some way, shape or form if he were to show up, maybe after he first gets his powers or something. I think that'd be pretty funny. And if you know, like if you knew the character looked like that, you'd be like, okay, that's pretty funny. And some, other things have done that previously, but I think with Savitar, it might be one where you go, okay, that was probably a decent one to do. But I think an interesting way to bring in, and use the character of Savitar within this new DC Universe reboot would to make him a connecting villain, if you want to put it, to the legacy of the Flash mantle. Of course, we don't know what James Gunn is going to do when it comes to a character like Jay Garrick. Is he going to be from the main Earth, the same Earth that Barry Allen and Wally West will be from? Or will he do some Earth 2 stuff when it comes to characters from the JSA or, the Justice Society of America? We don't know. It's alluded that Alan Scott's going to play a part in Lanterns, but we don't know if Multiverse is playing into that. But if that's the case, then yeah, Alan Scott existed in the past, so you'd assume the JSA did, as well as a character like Jay Garrick, but that's a wait and see. But I think it would be interesting if Savitar got his powers very similar to the way he does in the comics, but around the time that Jay Garrick was around, which would differ his progress as a speedster compared to Jay Garrick, who was much more simple and basic with his powers in comparison. But you see Savitar excel and excel and excel and just become this like much different thing, but also teasing where like a character like Barry Allen and Wally West will go, in the future, when they eventually get their powers. And with this, like, if he shows up at the time of Jay Garrick, it would be interesting if if it was Jay Garrick, maybe not necessarily like right towards the end where he's like, I'm not as good as I used to be, but like maybe like in the back half of his prime, if you want to put it. I think that would be pretty interesting. So Jay Garrick can still put up a fight in this like introductory period to the Savitar character. And you could make it in some way, whatever that might be, that Savitar is trapped, whether that be in the Speed Force or some other area, and that could be the origin that sets him up. That would just be the start of the story, start of the movie, start of Savitar's story, but it allows Jay Garrick some time to shine at the beginning, but also, as I said, playing to that legacy where we then see it shift over to whoever the Flash is in the current day. But then we can jump ahead to the present day with whoever the Flash is going to be. In the comics, as I said before, Savitar does face Wally West. So I would be, it would be fitting if it is Wally, if we want to be pure to the comics. But I don't think it overly matters what version of the Flash faces off against Savitar. But in the present day, Savitar would re-emerge and is even more obsessed with speed and making himself better, especially once he sees that we have, more advanced speedsters in the current day, whether that be Barry, Wally, or maybe even both of them side by side, whether that means that Barry and Wally are both the Flash, or Barry is the Flash and we have Wally West as Kid Flash. It'd be very interesting to see. And I think adding in something where Savitar can not just steal speed from a speedster, but maybe even just like energy as a whole from different things to make himself even more powerful, would make him a very, very threatening and dangerous foe in a film. But just in regards to at least not knowing, making him unpredictable. Like he's not just trying to do one thing, he's just hell-bent on power. So you don't know what exactly he's going to target to become more powerful. And it just depends whether you want to make him a pure villain where he would kill people, or someone that is just so set on making himself as powerful as possible, he isn't like aiming to kill people, but they are just collateral damage to his overall plan. So if he's targeting like energy from a plane, for example, I know why he would be in the sky, but let's just say he takes energy from a plane or like, like a train going like 1,000,000 miles an hour, then, that train can't stop for whatever reason. So that's like an example there. Or, you know what I mean? Like he takes power from things or energy from things that then need that energy to keep going, or not crash or whatever it might be. But he doesn't care because he gets that power. But it would kill 20 people in the process. But he's not aiming to kill those people. They're just collateral damage to his overall purpose. And it would be interesting to see how you would deal with that in regards to taking down him. Is it a case of, there's a proper fight with a winner or a loser? Or is it a case of Savitar eating, if you want to put it so much, he explodes? Maybe a bit of both. You want some action, someone Flash going, oh, Savitar, stop, like not doing anything. But also, if he is too powerful, can you even stop him? So it's like, I guess you have to do like a bit of a best of both worlds situation. I don't know. But, it's a character where I think there's a lot of wiggle room, and I don't think there's going to be too many people going, oh, but Savitar in the comics did this. Like, it's not like with Reverse Flash or, even like someone like some characters in the Rogues or whatever, or Gorilla Grodd. Like, people want like a ridiculous amount of accuracy to what is in the comics. I think Savitar is a very malleable character where you can adapt some of the stuff that's in the comics, but then be very loose and just adapt it how you want to translate it into whatever particular project, whenever that might happen, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and put it in that current context and include whatever characters you want to use as well. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions and everything we went over in this video. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.